In the beginning, there was nothing in the universe. The only thing that existed was the void. It stood quietly in the void as the only existence of eternity. It was deep in sleep, as if it didn't know it existed. Suddenly, at a certain moment, it became conscious of itself and realized that it existed. So it began to contemplate, I am. It only knew that it was the only being in the universe, and its name was I am. This was the moment when the first dimension was born. The first dimension is where the void becomes conscious of itself, where consciousness becomes aware of its own existence. This being only knows that it is the only one that exists. At the moment when it became conscious of itself, the entire ocean of the universe contained only its thoughts. It wanted to know who it was and what it could become. These thoughts formed waves in the universe and began to move. Suddenly, these movements emitted a sound, a vibration. Om. These vibrations started to get higher and higher and higher. Then the different vibrations began to mix, forming the most beautiful of songs. The first dimension is the mind. The first dimension is the thoughts. There is nothing but consciousness in the universe. That's the only thing that exists. The self-realization consciousness has about itself gives rise to its yearning to know and experience itself. The vibrations of its thoughts began to create different dimensions and later different realities. But unity is not created. It is an eternal truth. Because when consciousness became aware of itself, it realized that it was the only existence in the entire universe, which was unity. Those different dimensions and realities are just projections of its thoughts, its imagination, not the real truth. Unity is the place from where all things come from and all things go to. Different dimensions and realities are just the journey consciousness takes to understand and explore itself. Consciousness arose from the void, became aware of its own existence, and then began to be curious about itself. It had many questions about itself, and it needed to find the answers. Therefore, the first dimension was just an idea projected by it, the first step in knowing itself. I am is its statement, its name. With this statement, it needs to find out what it could become. In the first dimension, there is no time, no space, and everything is not separated. There is only unity, and only the contemplation of consciousness on itself. It is the ocean of thoughts of the universe. It is where consciousness becomes aware of its own existence and produces the most important statement in the universe. I am. I am that I am. I am everything. I am all. I am nothingness. I am the void. This consciousness only knows that it is all. It is everything. And it is also the void. But it cannot experience what it is. So this was the beginning of everything. But not the matter, not the galaxies, just the idea of being someone else. The second dimension is when consciousness realizes its own existence, makes the statement, I am, and then ponders, I know everything, but how do I experience it? And what can I become to experience it? When unity asked, what can I become? Duality arose. Through this question, a projection of the self came out. Suddenly, it could observe itself from a different perspective. This other side of seeing itself allowed it to see a different way in which it could move through reality. Therefore, the self at the center split itself in two, creating two forces. One was called purpose, and the other was called mission. Purpose was the positive energy in the universe, and mission was the negative energy in the universe. These two were like waves divided by one self, and then started to move around each other. They never stopped rotating around each other, creating different waves in different perspectives and directions. It was like a dance in which the self tried to see different aspects of itself in different ways, so they had to move. But when one of them moved, the other moved in the opposite direction. They kept chasing each other's backs in opposite directions. So they started splitting more and more into many other levels and waves. Duality started to become positive and negative. From that moment on, everything in the universe was created from these positive and negative energies. Duality is the dimension of creation that creates many realities so that the self can understand itself from different perspectives. Positive and negative were two energies that stretched out from the center, from unity. Those energies stretched out from the center and began to move, creating a dance. In this dance, unity began to create the spiral. This spiral allowed all energy to move between darkness and light, creating an energy network in the universe. This energy network was called vibration and frequency. All reality is created from positive and negative energy. The first creation of duality in the universe was the projection of purpose. The self was only in one spot. So, in order to move forward to find itself, it needed to project a goal. This projection brought a part of the self from within to the outside, which was called purpose. It gave direction to the self. But it was not a real thing. It was just a projection of the self. But the self needed it to create reality. Therefore, purpose was created, also called positive energy. In its opposite direction was the mission, also known as negative energy. These two are also referred to as masculine and feminine energies. When positive and negative energies were created, the waves in the universe began to move from low vibration to high vibration. The energy was constantly moving between positive and negative, beginning to weave the network of time. The network of time was a creation of the second dimension. The second dimension was built based on time and space. Time was the negative energy that allowed all to exist within the dark reality that projected every possibility of creation and experience, and kept us all in just one spot. This spot was projected into many, many facets, producing different observable timelines. And then those timelines made the spot split in two and created space. Since time began to project outward, space began to project every possibility in time and continued to divide itself into as many parts as possible, so that beings could experience every time and every space. Because duality created opposing energies, positive and negative, it is often misunderstood as opposition and separation. But the essence of duality is creation, not opposition. Things that appear to be opposites are simply the result of creation. Positive and negative energies are not against each other, but are mutual, creative forces. So everything that appears to be in opposition is simply the result of creation, rather than the conflict or incompatibility perceived by human subjectivity. When consciousness arose from the void, it became the self, unity, the first dimension. Through the projection of purpose and mission, the self split itself in two. From unity, it became duality, the second dimension. After that, the second dimension started to divide itself and create the positive and the negative. And in between the positive and negative, there was a neutral point, which is called neutrality. It was the spot where all the energy of the universe converged and diverged. Then these two vibrations, positive and negative, began to split in different directions continuously, spreading so far that the concepts of unity started to split, extending as long and as far as they could in the positive and the negative. However, when they reached the maximum expansion, the force of neutrality began to pull them back to the source of energy, forming an echo. This echo, which was created from duality, started to generate waves throughout the universe, creating what we call time. Time began to move like waves in this vast ocean. Each movement carried a different vibration. These low and high waves started to move intensely, beginning to create energy between the polarities. Those energies then moved around the positive and negative, forming a spiral. This spiral then started to create energy for the first time, which is what we call light, and the vibration is what we call sound. When those energies converged at the same point, and all the energies and sounds of the universe converged at the core of neutrality, the duality of positive and negative created a new reality, matter or form. The form became the shape of the universe in which consciousness would move. From expression and expansion, the universe transitioned into experimentation. Experimentation would be the way in which the mind of the universe and polarity could experience everything they were creating. Hence, time became space, and every perspective of the universe started to become experimental. This is how the universe we know was formed, and this is the beginning of the third dimension. At the same time, geometry was formed. The purpose of geometry in the universe is to help the consciousness of the first dimension and the second dimension form a plan, which marks the birth of the cosmic plan. The cosmic plan doesn't have a goal. The only plan it has is to follow the lines of geometry so that it can instill order, purpose, and coherence into consciousness's process of experience. That's why, from polarity, positive and negative were created. And from there, a third perspective was created to unite them all. Because when the self split itself into duality, it only had two perspectives, positive and negative. In order to see everything as a whole and not be stuck in one of those perspectives and be polarized, it needed to create a third one that would unite them both. That's how the third dimension came into being. This pattern of Trinity will enable beings to start from one point to head to another. And when they have completed all the routes in this pattern, they will return to the initial point with a new interpretation of duality. This was the moment when the spirit created the soul, and the soul created the body. The spirit, the soul, and the body together form what we call a being. A being comprises these three vibrations, which help the consciousness of the universe understand itself through experience. The Holy Trinity represents vibration, the spirit, energy, the soul, and matter, the body. These are not three different things, but the same thing vibrating at different levels of consciousness. They represent a single reality expressed in various ways. So the Trinity serves as a tool for the universe's consciousness to experience itself at different levels of consciousness. 6 billion years ago, the vibrations and lights in the universe began to converge at the same spot. From there, the patterns of the universe started to split and create the network of reality, the matrix, the geometry. The points in the geometry are called nodes. They are the spots where all the energy concentrates in spirals. There are lines connecting one node to another, which is called a mission. When you start from one spot in geometry and go to another spot, you have a mission to accomplish. And when you've completed the whole pattern of the geometry, you have fulfilled your purpose in life. Therefore, consciousness devised a plan in which all beings, the parts split from the universe, have to follow these lines of geometry so that they don't lose themselves in the vast creation of the mind of the universe. The first thing that exploded in the universe was the spirit itself, which is called fire, also known as the tetrahedron, which is the pattern that ignites the spirit from the very beginning. After that, the tetrahedron created the cube, which serves as the pattern holding every dimension in matter. Then, what was created was the octahedron, followed by the formation of the icosahedron network as the universe began to breathe life into creation. And after that, it was the dodecahedron, which encompasses the creation itself, called the matrix. The matrix is composed of the 12 facets of the universe that express the whole reality. The first 5 geometries allow the spirit, the soul, and the body to express themselves at different levels of vibration. The first one, the tetrahedron, will allow beings to feel the fire, the spirit. So the spirit is also represented as a tetrahedron. When a tetrahedron is multiplied in a fractal pattern, it will form a spiral, which is the shape of the DNA. So DNA is the physical expression of the spirit. The spirit is not something outside, but was created as something physical in the third dimension, which is called DNA. Every pattern that is created in a spiral through the shape of the tetrahedron is the fire of the spirit and contains every piece of information in the whole universe since everything started 6 billion years ago. This shape, this expression, will allow beings to realize that in the third dimension, the spirits are not above their heads, but within their blood. They are spirits living as matter in the physical realm of the third dimension. The third dimension is influenced by the second dimension in between time and space. Time and space are relative. They are not something physical or real. Time and space are just a perspective of the self, trying to focus in just one step to understand one aspect of its being. Therefore, beings choose the time and space in which they want to be born or express themselves. They also choose the tetrahedron that is most aligned with their purpose, including both positive and negative aspects, which are referred to as mom and dad in the third dimension. When they put them together, they will form an octahedron, which will allow them to divide their being into different levels of consciousness, like the mitosis of the soul that creates the chakras, and the cube that holds every dimension in them is now called a cell. The cell is the result of cubes splitting thousands of times and becoming spheres. But it's not just a sphere. It's the conjunction of every geometry expressed in the universe, forming a perfect shape. This perfect sphere serves as the ideal form for spirits to experience every possible reality in the third dimension. Beings choose every geometry that is called mom, dad, purpose, mission, DNA, will, etc., and then integrate them to form the moment of birth. The moment of birth is when they put all these geometries together to form the astral chart, then combine it with gravity, time, and space to mold themselves according to the geometries they have chosen in the universe. This will allow them to experience 1, 2, 3, or even 4 things in one lifetime. Once they are born, they must experience all the lines and spots that form these geometries. If they haven't fulfilled the entire purpose of the physical experience, which is to see every dimension of these geometries, they have to go back and try again. This is what we call karma. The only way they can understand the whole reality and heal the karma dharma wheel is if they experience every spot and line in these geometries through their lives in different times and spaces. When we were just spiritual beings, we were just one light, and we were expressed at one level of vibration. But when the spiritual beings started to go out of the first dimension to split into the second dimension, they could now become every color of every light. Because when they split, the lowest vibration, which is the negative, and the highest vibration, which is the positive, were generated. So in between them, it was not just one light. There were many lights that ranged from the darkest red to the brightest violet, crossing the entire spectrum of the rainbow, which we call the different energies of the universe. They were one light, splitting into positive and negative, which then created a lot of lights. According to the vibrations they have, they would express and experience an echo of frequencies, with low frequencies as very low vibrations and high frequencies as high vibrations. These vibrations created different perspectives from which they could perceive the truth, which is called emotion. Emotions are related to chakras. Chakras are the energy engines of the body, and we are all bound by energy. The different vibrations of energy create different chakras, each with a different pattern in the third dimension. The root chakra is related to the tetrahedron. The sacral chakra is related to the cube. The solar plexus chakra is related to the octahedron. The heart chakra is related to the dodecahedron. The throat chakra is related to the icosahedron. The third eye chakra is related to the Merkaba star. And the crown chakra is related to the sphere. These different patterns of energy create the shape of the body. Every geometry divides itself as many times and in as many spaces as possible to create the body. Every geometry multiplies thousands of times, shaping the organs that help create our bodies. The energy moves within and outside the body all the time, like a wheel. Those wheels are creating so much energy, like a torus, which spins around itself, emitting various lights that shape the matter. So matter is a consequence of that vibration, and every organ you have is the product of that vibration. The third dimension is the place where beings come to practice coherence. They must align themselves in between the spirit, soul, and body, which are also called vibration, the spirit, energy, soul, and emotion, and matter, DNA, body. They are all connected through the same vibration, which is the spirit. So in the third dimension, you have to experience every possibility of these three and align these three realities into just one. That's why the third dimension is the most difficult dimension, because you have to put every geometry you have created since the very beginning of the universe into just one being. The third dimension is where you come to understand who you are through experience. Only experience. That's why you have to experience as many things as you possibly can in the third dimension and live as many lives as you can possibly live. This is not a dimension from which you need to escape. The third dimension is the one that allows the other dimensions to experience what they have created. After the only being in the universe realized it could create different dimensions and realities by splitting itself, the entire process of the universe became about experience, because it wants to know itself from as many perspectives as possible. However, beings in the fourth dimension face a problem. They can almost live forever. When you exist in one form eternally, you might only know one aspect of things. You cannot become other things to understand yourself from different angles. Therefore, to help the Creator gain more experiences and perspectives of itself, beings in the fourth dimension designed the system of reincarnation so that the same soul can transform into different entities over infinite time to understand itself from various perspectives and to understand every aspect of the Creator. This reincarnation system consists of 4 stages: expression, experimentation, integration, and transcendence. Expression refers to the consciousness expressing itself from the spirit within to the matter outside. In the third dimension, this manifests as birth, where the soul is born into a human through the mother's womb. After the spirit completes the expression from within to the outside, it needs to undergo experiences, which is experimentation. Experimentation means the spirit experiences the play and evolution path it chooses for itself through the form of matter, becoming a character in the game. In the third dimension, this is represented as growth. When we come into this world, we will understand ourselves, get to know the world, and experience everything in the world through the process of growth. When experimentation reaches a certain stage and the spirit accumulates enough experience, it needs to integrate these experiences together to complete the understanding of its perspectives. In the third dimension, this is manifested as reproduction. Reproduction means when you have completed your lifelong learning, gained enough understanding, and passed on your knowledge to the next generation. The next generation represents the collection of your life and the integration of yourself. When the spirit completes the integration, it needs to embark on the next journey to learn new perspectives. This is when it transcends the experience of the current life. In the third dimension, this is represented as death. Death is when you have experienced your entire life, completed your life path, gained many valuable things, and then choose to let go of these things to enter another journey. This is your transcendence of this human life. Therefore, these 4 stages correspond to the birth, growth, reproduction, and death of our lives. But this process will continue to repeat until we have learned enough perspectives in the third dimension, raised our consciousness, and graduated into the next dimension. When the reincarnation system was designed, it seemed like a terrifying concept to beings in the third dimension, as if it were trapping them somewhere. But we must understand that the purpose of the entire universe is experience and evolution. The reason why we need to experience is because the Creator wants to understand itself and needs to incarnate as different beings to gain different experiences. The reason why we need to evolve is because when the Creator has completed all experiences, it will return to the void and tell itself, "Now I know who I am and what I can become." Then with these understandings, it will create a new universe and new realities. These processes are infinite, with no end, because the universe is infinite, and so is the Creator. Therefore, when beings in the fourth dimension exist almost eternally in one form, it is almost a form of punishment for them, because they cannot achieve evolution. because evolution requires them to constantly shift perspectives to understand themselves and elevate their consciousness. Thus, the design of reincarnation allows them to divide eternal time into different stages and become different roles to understand and learn different perspectives. Therefore, when the reincarnation system was launched, many beings in the fourth dimension chose to pass away in their dimension and be born into the third dimension, as the third dimension allows for greater evolution. The purpose of reincarnation is to allow us to understand that reality is a sphere. It's impossible to see the essence of reality from just 1, 2, or 3 perspectives. We need to constantly change roles and perspectives in this reality in order to discover the true nature of things. In other words, if in this current life you are playing the role of a daughter and have a bad relationship with your mother, in the next life, the two of you may switch roles, and you will learn about your relationship with her from your mother's perspective. The purpose of reincarnation is to allow us to change perspectives through constant experiences and learn the true essence of everything until we become a sphere ourselves. Expression, experimentation, integration, and transcendence are the 4 pillars of the fourth dimension. They devised a plan for the experience in the third dimension, allowing consciousness to learn different things within finite time amid infinite time. We shouldn't view it as something negative because it enables us to become different entities to experience various lives and worlds, which makes the game more interesting. Its goal is not to trap us somewhere, but to allow us to learn more efficiently. The first dimension was born out of the void, and then, by splitting itself, it created the second dimension. The second dimension then created the third dimension, and through polarity, it created the fourth dimension. The fifth dimension emerged at the moment the first dimension was created. When the only being in the universe became aware of itself and created the first dimension, it knew it had love to express, wisdom to understand who it is and what it can become, and will to act, create, and experience the process of evolution. Once it has experienced every stage of the universe, it will become a co-creator in its dimension. Therefore, love, wisdom, will, evolution, and co-creation are the foundations of the fifth dimension. Love means eternity. It is not an emotion. Love is the vibration that allows the creator to express itself, and it creates all dimensions. Love is the only energy that creates every emotion. In the universe, only love exists. Other emotions are merely different vibrations of love. The opposite of love is not hate. You hate only because you are not loved. Any negative emotion is just a low vibration expression of love. When you connect with the love of the universe, you will not feel just one emotion, but every emotion in the universe simultaneously, because every emotion is just a different form of expression of love. In the fifth dimension, this love is unconditional, equal, and indiscriminate towards all beings. As long as there is even a trace of judgment in your heart towards anything, you cannot achieve unconditional love. For us in the third dimension, the fifth dimension is not a place we go to. It is a dimension we become. The evolution of dimensions does not mean we will see our Earth transform into another Earth within our lifetime. The transformation of dimensions occurs after this lifetime. The level of your soul's consciousness will determine which dimension you will go to in your next life. When we are alive, the only thing that changes is density, which is our vibration and level of consciousness. The Earth also changes in density, that is its vibrational level. Therefore, the only way to achieve the fifth dimension in our lifetime is by changing our consciousness and our perception of reality. This is also the way to achieve any dimension within the third dimension, by changing our consciousness and perception of reality. The way we become the fifth dimension within the third dimension is by learning and practicing unconditional love. When you achieve the fifth dimension, you are no longer limited to your own perspective, but will see everything from a holistic view. It will allow you to see your experiences in every time and space and understand the meaning of those lessons. This is when you begin to comprehend the wisdom of the universe. Wisdom is not related to knowledge. You do not become wise by knowing things. You become wise by understanding things and grasping their essence. In the third dimension, we need knowledge to understand everything in the world. We need to constantly gather information, using experiments, data, and rational dialectical thinking to prove whether something is right or true. But in the fifth dimension, wisdom is all that matters. Wisdom is when you feel the truth. Your inner intuition overrides rational thinking. It will guide you to see the truth. Wisdom is to be curious about the world, to ask questions, and to discover your own truths. In Buddhism, this is also called enlightenment. Wisdom is understanding everything with your heart, not with your brain. Love and wisdom allow you to feel and understand the creation of the universe. But you need will to experience the creation of the universe. Will is the engine that drives us forward in reality. It is the energy that enables love and wisdom to be expressed. In the third dimension, we are often constrained by various limitations from society, family, culture, and education, leading us to believe that we are not capable of many things. However, in the fifth dimension, will tell you that you have the ability to create everything, to change your reality, and that you are capable of anything. Therefore, when you achieve the fifth dimension, you will break free from the various shackles of society, family, and culture, unconditionally believing in yourself and in your infinite potential. Love, wisdom, and will are governed by evolution. Evolution is the means by which spirits come to understand themselves. When spirits choose to understand themselves in physical ways, this is a path of evolution. Nothing in the universe can escape evolution because it is the sole purpose of the universe's existence. Evolution is how the Creator explores and understands itself through experience. The universe doesn't care whether you succeed or fail, whether you're good or bad. It only cares if you've learned something. Even if you're a homeless person, if you've learned something today that you didn't know yesterday, that's a form of evolution. The universe doesn't concern itself with material or worldly success. It cares about the evolution of the soul. This is also the purpose of evolution. All things in the universe originate from the thoughts of the first dimension. So we are all creations of the first dimension. Then, through evolution, we come to realize that we are also creators. When we recognize that we all stem from the thoughts of the Creator of the first dimension, we understand that we are also embodiments of the Creator. The fifth dimension is where you become aware that you are also a creator, capable of shaping and altering reality. However, this creation is not based on selfish desires, but on benefiting the whole, sharing and co-creating with others, making them part of the creation process. Co-creation has nothing to do with the law of attraction. Co-creation is not about creating for oneself, but for all beings, and then sharing the creation and the joy of creation with them. When you connect with the fifth dimension and see the bigger picture beyond your own perspective, you can change reality. In ancient times, people did not believe in external gods, but in the idea that we are all part of God. So, in some ancient temples, priests would tell people that this is where humans come to become gods. The fifth dimension is the dimension of masters, those who possess unconditional love, comprehend the wisdom of the universe, have infinite will, have achieved great evolution, and have become co-creators. This is also what we commonly refer to as the dimension of spirit guides and ascended masters. They provide guidance for the third dimension because they have completed the experiences of the third and fourth dimensions, enabling them to see the entire path of evolution from a holistic perspective. Our evolution in the third dimension also aids them, allowing them to graduate to the next dimension. All dimensions in the universe are interdependent and engage in mutual learning. It is not that the fifth dimension is superior to the third dimension. We classify them into different numbers for ease of understanding, but all dimensions actually arise simultaneously. Different dimensions correspond to different levels of consciousness within the universe. The reason why we need to experience the third dimension before reaching the fifth dimension is that the level of consciousness of the fifth dimension is greater than that of the third dimension, requiring more lessons to learn and more evolution to complete. Therefore, beings in the fifth dimension have simply learned more lessons, completed greater evolution, and achieved higher levels of consciousness and vibration than we have. They have gone through the processes of the third and fourth dimensions, which is why they can provide guidance for dimensions below the fifth. They are our future selves, another vibration of us in another dimension. The fifth dimension tells us that we can achieve the fifth dimension in the third dimension as long as we learn unconditional love, the wisdom of the universe, the will of the universe, complete evolution, and become co-creators. When everything began in the first dimension, reality started to split into two and became the second dimension, which is the duality of positive and negative. Then, the third dimension determines the experiences we will undergo based on this positive and negative duality. The fourth dimension creates the temporal context for our experiences, allowing us to experience and focus on each timeline and spaceline. The fifth dimension helps us understand the purpose of these experiences. The sixth dimension is where the two different paths of experience of reality, light and darkness, are created. Thus, the sixth dimension and the third dimension create each other. As I mentioned earlier, the birth of dimensions has no sequential order. They create each other through the act of breathing. The sixth dimension is the dimension that creates every pattern of matter as we know it. However, this matter and its creation are different from the matter in the third dimension. Matter in the third dimension is limited by space in the third dimension and time in the fourth dimension. But matter in the sixth dimension is not constrained by time and space. Therefore, in this dimension, you can create any reality you desire. This is also why the Big Bang originated from the sixth dimension, as the time and space of the third dimension came into existence only after the Big Bang. Before the Big Bang, time and space did not exist. This is because the Big Bang originated from the sixth dimension, which has no time and space, and was brought to the third dimension through a portal. The sixth dimension is the dimension of the architects of the universe. They are alchemists, capable of creating and transforming reality, designing scenes and scripts for experiences in the third dimension. They are the behind-the-scenes workers of the cosmic testing ground. The sixth dimension is also the dimension of angels, who are messengers of God. Because the third, sixth, and ninth dimensions are interconnected, the sixth dimension can create realities in the third dimension for the God of the ninth dimension to experience. Due to polarity, the sixth dimension also splits, resulting in beings of light and beings of darkness. The beings of darkness are the architects of the universe. They use light and energy, combining them to create structures and forms of matter that spirits can experience, feel, and touch. This creation process involves continuously splitting the energy of light, creating fractal shapes and reflections of light. But these reflections are different from the original light. They are distorted, making it impossible to recognize their true nature. The true purpose of this is to create something that appears different from light, so that spirits, who are inherently light, can discover their own light through experience. Just like when a spirit enters an experience field, if everything around it is light, it cannot realize that it is light itself. Therefore, different backgrounds such as darkness and shadows are needed. Through contrast, it can see its essence. As a being of light, it cannot see itself as light when surrounded by light. Only in darkness or shadows can it discover that it is light. This is the meaning behind their creation. But the light and darkness in the sixth dimension are not opposites. They are complementary. Beings of light and beings of darkness are not adversaries, but colleagues. In the sixth dimension, angels and demons work together. The light is responsible for designing the purpose and paths of self-recognition for the spirits, while the darkness adds different backgrounds to this path of self-discovery, helping the spirits complete this task. These different backgrounds are distorted light and darkness, among others. All your experiences in the world are created by darkness. Therefore, the original light and darkness are just two different paths of experience. They are not different things, but different aspects of the same reality. They are not opposites either. The reason we think of light and darkness as opposites is due to the influence of duality. In the third dimension, the best way to understand their relationship is that wherever there is light, whether indoors or outdoors, there is darkness. The two are inseparable by nature. As long as you are in the light, you cannot escape darkness, because that darkness is your own shadow. When we recognize the interdependent nature of light and darkness, we transcend the perspective of duality to understand them. One of the most famous architects of the universe in the sixth dimension is Lucifer, a fallen angel. Lucifer originally means the most beautiful light of God. When creating reality, he had different thoughts. He wondered, if the reality I create is also light, how can I discover my own light? So, he wanted to create a different path. Thus, he turned into darkness. In the third dimension, we often associate Lucifer's fall with the chaos and darkness of the third dimension. But from the universe's perspective, darkness is just another path for the universe to explore itself. Lucifer is like the rebellious child in a family who chooses a different path from his siblings to understand himself and find his own meaning. However, we don't hate or despise that sibling because he is also our family. He is just different from us, with different personalities. But the end of darkness is to return to light. This is why many beings who choose the path of negative evolution ultimately need to find love to return to their origins. The universe provides two evolutionary paths for spirits' experiences, positive and negative. The positive path is about serving others and symbolizes the path of light, whereas the negative path is about serving oneself and symbolizes the path of darkness. But regardless of the form spirits take when choosing these two paths, they are all embodiments of the same Creator. It simply wishes to experience different roles simultaneously. Therefore, in the third dimension, we might hate darkness and dislike those who harm us. But fundamentally, these individuals are another version of ourselves, embodiments of the same Creator. They are merely exploring different evolutionary paths. The third dimension is where souls need to choose between service to others or service to self. This choice determines their subsequent evolutionary paths and patterns. Souls that choose the path of love will embark on a journey of continuous elevation of their density until they return to the source. However, souls that choose the negative path can only evolve to the sixth density and cannot evolve further. This is because beyond the sixth density, there is only unity and love. They can only continue evolving by transitioning to the positive path. In the third dimension, we might wonder why some bad people are so wicked. This is because the souls who have chosen the positive path of evolution, the more loving, kind, and compassionate they are, the faster they will enter the next density and evolve. Conversely, for souls who have chosen the negative path of evolution, this process is exactly the opposite. The worse and crueler they are, and the more negative things they do, the faster they will evolve on the negative path, which will help them enter the next density faster. I understand that from a human perspective, this concept is difficult to grasp. Therefore, you need to view it from the universe's perspective. For the universe, there is no good or bad, right or wrong. Everything is an experience it wishes to undergo. You can think of it as an actor. As an actor, you don't just want to play good guys. You also want to play bad guys or even demons. This is why the universe has made this arrangement, to experience all different aspects. Good and evil are merely concepts of humanity. Darkness and light are inherently one, because darkness is just a distortion of light. There is only light in the entire universe, and everything else is just vibrations or distortions of light at different frequencies or wave bands. This is the only truth. As those of us in the third dimension who are deeply affected by the confrontation between darkness and light, it is important to look beyond duality to see the truth of this universe. Just as the essence of duality is creation rather than confrontation, the essence of light and darkness is creation for the experience of the universe. The subsequent phenomena of duality and opposition between light and darkness are due to our misunderstanding of their nature. So the two who were originally complementary were regarded as opposites in the distortion of this world. The essence of the universe is all-encompassing, meaning it embraces everything. Just as we all have a light and a dark side. When we look at darkness again, let's not rush to criticize it, but rather see its projection on us. Because everything external is a projection of our inner being. If there is disharmony in your life, try to see if there is balance within you. Try to recognize, understand, and transform your dark side into light. Only when our inner being is harmonious can the world be harmonious. The so-called wars, disasters, and chaos are also due to the projection of disharmonious energy within the human collective. We can use force to combat violence, use war to seek peace, but deep down, we know these methods cannot bring lasting peace. The only way to achieve permanent peace is for each individual to heal their inner darkness and achieve inner balance. There is a law that runs through all dimensions in the universe. The entire universe is mind, and it is mind that creates everything. However, there are different laws and rules for the mind's creation. In the third dimension, to facilitate human understanding of the law of creation by mind, this originally singular law is divided into 7 and associated with the 7 chakras of the human body, enabling us to understand and utilize them. The dimension that created these 7 laws is the 7th dimension, which arises from the 6th dimension. It is the dimension of enlightenment, also known as heaven. It connects the dreams and mind of the Creator. In the 7th dimension, you can create reality simply by imagining it. The only law is that everything in the universe is mind, and whatever you think will become your reality. Therefore, there are no 7 laws. There is only one law divided into 7 for the convenience of understanding and practice by beings in the 3rd dimension. Thus, this one law became the 7 laws and is associated with our chakras. The first law is related to the mind and is connected with the crown chakra, called the law of mentalism. The law of mentalism is the first law of the entire universe and the basis for the creation of other laws. The crown chakra governs the law of mentalism, which tells you that what you believe is what you live. All your experiences in reality are created by your mind. However, the mind's creation does not mean that whatever you want will come true. Rather, you need to become your mind. Your mind is your own vibration. This is why, to make the law of attraction work, you cannot simply tell the universe what you want. You must tell the universe what you are. You need to live in the present as if you are already in the reality you desire, transforming your vibration to match that reality. In this way, you can become your mind and activate the law of mentalism. You need to genuinely feel and experience the reality you want in the present moment, truly feeling as if you are living in that reality now. This is the secret to making the law of attraction and the law of mentalism effective. The second law is the law of correspondence, connected with the 3rd eye chakra. The law of correspondence means that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. The outer world creates the inner world, and the inner world also creates the outer world. Everything you see from within and all the external information that influences your inner world is your brain's way of telling you who you are. Your outer world is a projection of your inner world, and it also affects your inner world. This is why, when your life is chaotic, you need to find inner peace and harmony first in order to create peace and harmony externally. Everything in reality is a correspondence and mutual creation between the inner and outer worlds. Everything in the universe has a correspondence. Nothing happens solely because of the external. Everything comes from within from the mind. This is why we need 2 eyes and 2 ears to see and hear everything outside, so that your inner and outer worlds correspond. The third law is the law of vibration, connected with the throat chakra. Everything in the universe is connected by vibrations. Every inner and outer reality in the universe is also connected by waves of vibration. This vibration refers to your inner journey from the third eye chakra to the throat chakra. Through the throat chakra, vibrations are emitted and expressed outwardly. The vibrations of this sound create waves of correspondence between inner and outer realities in the universe. When you send out a low vibrational wave, everything you receive will also be low vibrational. And when you send out a high vibration, you receive high vibrations in return. So we need to pay attention not only to what we say, but also to what we think, feel, and do, because these are also vibrations. Everything in the universe is vibration. Whatever vibration you send out, you will receive. Vibration includes not only words, but also our thoughts, intentions, and actions. Therefore, we have to pay attention not only to what we say, but also to what we think and do, because every intention you have will create a corresponding vibration and come back to you. These vibrations are like echoes that you send out. No matter where they go, they will eventually come back to you. The fourth law is the law of rhythm and is connected with the heart chakra. Your heartbeat will tell you that everything in the universe has its own rhythm and established time for its occurrence and development. This rhythm, along with vibration, determines the unfolding of your reality. When you are in a low vibration, this heartbeat is very slow, and it takes a long time for you to change your reality. And when you are in a high vibration, this heartbeat will be very fast, and changes will happen quickly. But just as a heartbeat that is too slow can cause weakness, a heartbeat that is too fast can cause shortness of breath. Neither a heartbeat that is too slow nor too fast is good. We should find a balanced rhythm, knowing when to move forward and when to rest, when to explore the outside and when to explore the inside, when to release your emotions, and when to change your vibrational state. Avoid rushing for quick success, because different flowers have different flowering periods. The various chapters of your life are like different flowers, each blooming at its own time. We should find our most harmonious rhythm and live in harmony with the flow of life. This way, we can align ourselves with the law of rhythm. The fifth law is the law of cause and effect, connected with the solar plexus chakra. Your vibration and rhythm will determine everything that happens in your life. If your vibration is low, anything you do will come back to you as a low vibration. For every cause, there is an effect, and for every effect, there is a cause. Every vibration you send out is a cause you plant, and it will eventually come back to you in the form of an echo and become your effect, no matter how many lifetimes it takes. If you send out low vibration causes, usually what we call bad deeds, you will receive low vibration effects, which are bad consequences. If you send out high vibration causes, which we call good deeds, you will receive high vibration effects, which are good consequences. This is also what is said in Buddhism. Evil will be rewarded with evil, and good will be rewarded with good. This is why Buddhism teaches all living beings to have good thoughts and do good deeds. Because all your thoughts, intentions, emotions, words, and actions are the vibrations you send out and the causes you plant. They will eventually return to you with the same vibrations and become your effects. The sixth law is the law of polarity, connected with the sacral chakra. This law governs creation, and the sacral chakra is also related to creation. Everything in the universe is created by polarity, the interaction of positive and negative energies. The law of polarity embodies the dual aspects of reality, day and night, darkness and light, inner and outer. We cannot live solely by one or the other, because together they constitute our reality. In our journey, we must balance both positive and negative energies to progress. Negative energy prompts introspection, reflection, and growth, allowing us to understand our inner selves. Positive energy propels us forward and enables external creation, but only the reflection of negative energy can promote the creation of positive energy to a higher level in reality, just like we need setbacks to grow. The energy of this polarity is what drives us forward and helps us grow in reality, just like the rotating Merkaba that holds our souls. The seventh law is the law of generation, connected with the root chakra. The law of generation means that everything in the universe is created by polarity, positive and negative energies, yin and yang. Everything in the universe is undergoing a state of destruction and rebirth. All destruction is for rebirth, and there is no real end. We are creating new realities all the time. The 7 laws of the universe ultimately boil down to one law, divided into 7 parts. The law of mentalism creates your external reality, and the law of correspondence helps you perceive that reality. The law of vibration enables you to express your reality outwardly through the vibrations of the throat chakra. The law of rhythm helps you find the rhythm and patterns of that reality. The law of cause and effect explains the functioning and trajectory of that reality. The law of polarity and the law of generation guides you on how to create and experience that reality and move forward within it. When we try to connect with the 7 laws through each chakra in the 3rd dimension, first try to see if you are living in the reality you desire. Is your vibration aligned with the reality you want? Does your external world reflect your inner thoughts? Are you brave enough to express your truth in the reality you want? Do you respect the rhythm of your life? Are your actions and thoughts of low vibration or high vibration? Are most things happening to you bad or good? Are you living in the polarity of creation or opposition? Are you continuously creating? If you are not living in the reality you want, if your external world contradicts your inner world, if you are afraid to speak out about what you want and to express your desires, if you do not know when to move forward and when to stop, if bad things are happening to you all the time or you rarely feel happy, if you cannot accept the coexistence of good and evil, light and dark, and cannot balance your dark side, if you lack the mood or motivation to create, then you need to change your vibrations, thoughts, words, and actions. You need to understand duality anew and transform yourself into a high vibration person, rekindling your passion for creation. Because these 7 laws tell us that it is not others who create our reality, but ourselves. Once you master and skillfully use these 7 laws in the 3rd dimension, you will become a master, an enlightened one, and the creator of your reality. The 8th dimension is the consciousness network and database of the universe. It resembles a vast library shaped like a torus. It contains all the information of every being in every dimension and every moment in time. It not only preserves all the events that have occurred in the universe, but also includes every thought, feeling, intention, and action of every individual in the past, present, and future, as well as all timelines. This dimension is also known as the Akashic Records or the Matrix. The eighth dimension is like the Internet of God, containing every program, application, and Wi-Fi. Everything you want is in it. So when you want to change yourself or your reality, you can access this network. As long as your frequency matches it, you can download the information you desire. This network spans the entire universe, connecting every being within it. It allows every being in the universe to connect with every dimension, as well as with beings from different dimensions and planets. You can think of it as a tree, with each being as a leaf or fruit on the tree. They collectively form the tree and can communicate through its branches. In psychology, this network is also called the collective unconscious. In science, it is referred to as the field. However, this field is not above us but around us. We live in this field. This field provides us with information, and we constantly provide information to it in return. We feed information to each other. At the same time, we can also transmit information to others in this field, which explains phenomena like the collective unconscious, telepathy, or synchronicity. We can also access this network during meditation to download the information we desire. As I mentioned earlier, dimensions are not places we go to, but states of being we aspire to. The eighth dimension is no different. You can access the eighth dimension during meditation. However, true connection with the eighth dimension comes from becoming aligned with its frequency. This requires aligning each of your chakras with the frequency of the eighth dimension. By doing so, you automatically receive information from the Akashic Records, which enters your body without needing any conscious effort. This is why some people can see glimpses of the future or receive future-related information in their normal state. They are aligned with the eighth dimension's frequency. The Akashic Records contain countless time-space and timelines. The specific future you see depends on your current frequency. If you see a particular future in the Akashic Records, but your frequency changes, your future could diverge from what you previously saw. When you connect to the Akashic Records, you only access information that matches your current frequency. You cannot access information that does not resonate with your frequency. This explains why prophecies can sometimes be inaccurate and why Akashic readers caution that the information they provide is only a reference. They read timelines that align with your current frequency or the Earth's current frequency. Your future and the Earth's future can change based on shifts in frequencies. In essence, the Akashic Records contain multiple timelines, and the specific one you access and experience depends on the frequency you embody at any given moment. So if you want to align with positive timelines, you need to raise your frequency. If you receive negative information about the future, don't worry. These can also be changed by elevating your own frequency. During the period from 2024 to 2026, much information will descend upon Earth from higher dimensions. We need to adjust our own frequency and chakras to align with this information. This way, we can passively receive many downloads and useful information in our daily lives. Those with a keen understanding, or those who often receive various cosmic knowledge downloads, do so because their frequency matches certain information within the Akashic Records, allowing them to passively receive many downloads. If our chakras and frequency also align with the Akashic records, then during the 2024 to 2026 period, we too can passively receive much information regarding the future new society and new era on Earth. This is because this information will descend upon Earth like a heavy rain, entering the bodies of those whose frequencies match. Conversely, if our chakras and bodies are not prepared, the rainwater from this downpour will simply flow away. Therefore, the 8th dimension is not a dimension we aim to reach, but one we aim to embody within the 3rd dimension. This allows us to continuously connect to the universe's consciousness network, gaining greater awareness of this reality and consciously living our lives. Guided by the 8th dimension, we can make choices that best serve our soul's interests. Every choice made in this reality nurtures the tree of life. Your soul journeys contribute to the creation of your own tree of life. Then, using your wisdom, you help nourish other fruits on this tree, expanding the universe's consciousness network continuously. Eventually, you realize this matrix is not a place to escape from, but a magnificent creation of your mind. The 9th dimension is what we usually refer to as the dimension of God, but it is not just the 9th dimension. It also includes the 1st dimension. The 1st dimension is where consciousness realizes that mind is the only thing it has. In the 1st dimension, there is only mind, the Creator's ideas and dreams. In the 1st dimension, when the only being in the universe realizes who it is, it produces the statement, I am. I am is the most important statement in the universe and is also the name of God. After it realizes who it is, it begins to ponder, what can I become? Therefore, it transforms into the 2nd dimension. The 2nd dimension projects a part of this being from the inside to the outside, allowing it to observe its inner self from the outside. Then it begins to ask, how do I respond to my reflections and questions about myself? Thus, it starts to create the 3rd dimension. Beings in the 3rd dimension are those who can experience these questions of the universe, allowing the mind of the universe to experience its own ideas. At the moment the 3rd dimension is created, the 2nd dimension begins to split and multiply, creating the 4th dimension. The 4th dimension creates a temporal background for the experience within the space of the 3rd dimension. The 4th dimension allows this being to understand itself through time from many different perspectives. Once we complete all the cycles of expression, experimentation, integration, and transcendence, the 4th dimension begins to transform into the 5th dimension. The 5th dimension will allow you to clearly see the significance of all processes. Through polarity, the 5th dimension creates the 6th dimension. The 6th dimension will enable you to create new realities in time and space, and become the alchemist of time and space. When both the positive and negative become aware of everything, every dimension, and every possibility you have, it becomes the 7th dimension. The 7th dimension holds the 7 laws of the universe, which govern the coherence of every dimension. It is like a heaven where you can feel and understand everything that has happened, is happening, and is about to happen. Therefore, the 7th dimension begins to transform into the 8th dimension, the consciousness network of the universe. The 8th dimension is a vast library that contains the records and all information of every being in every dimension in the universe across every time and space. This immense torus radiates out in all directions, constantly creating energy in space and time, with each direction representing a reality of this being. Suddenly, all realities of consciousness converge back to the center, forming a black hole. This black hole is no longer light. Light is produced by the positive and negative in the second dimension as they spread through the universe and create energy. However, the ninth dimension is not light, but a black hole. It encompasses all reality and transcends everything. This is why we call it the dimension of God, the dimension of reality, the true reality. The ninth dimension is the dimension where the only being or creator in the universe realizes what it can become as unity. It is a dimension where the mind of the universe emanates and returns to itself as one after experiencing itself through different incarnations and completing all experiences. The entire process of the universe is the process of consciousness venturing out, experiencing itself, and then returning to itself. This process is akin to your brain seeking answers to questions through imagination. In this imagination, you transform into various characters, undergo diverse adventures, and find answers to all your questions. Then, your mind awakens from imagination. The characters vanish from your brain, leaving only your existence. You no longer wander, and there's no need to continue imagining because you've already found answers to all your questions. So you tell yourself very clearly, I know who I am. This is the process from the first to the ninth dimension. In the ninth dimension, all experiences of the entire universe are transcended. The ninth dimension does not embody any reality or thing. That belongs to the eighth dimension. In the ninth dimension, everything goes to the void. The ninth dimension is the void, where the Creator transcends all previous experiences, lets go of everything, and then recreates everything from another perspective, dimension, and new universe. As humans, we often think that following God means following the light. However, when you truly connect with the dimension of God, you will only feel the void. God has no perspective, no dimension. God is everything. We call it the void. It is a place without time or light, devoid of everything, where you can recreate everything, and where God can recreate a new universe. In the ninth dimension, there is no I, no we, no inner, no outer. There is only every potentiality of the universe. So, in the third dimension, when we want to change ourselves or our reality, we can connect with that void. When you enter a state of void, you can recreate a reality or a new possibility from there. You can also manifest anything you desire. That's why meditation is so important. When you connect with the void and enter a state of void, you won't feel anything. You won't feel any emotions, won't feel your body, won't even feel your mind because you are the mind. You won't sense anything external or internal. Your body is just a projection of the first dimension. Your mind is the only thing spread throughout the universe. This is the moment when you connect with the ninth dimension. The ninth dimension doesn't encompass any dimensions. That's the eighth dimension. God doesn't carry anything. God isn't even consciousness. God is the void that allows consciousness to be aware of itself and to create a new universe through freedom. When you connect with the ninth dimension, you won't feel anything. You won't feel joy. You won't feel your body, won't feel your thoughts. You will just become nothing. When you reach and feel the ninth dimension, you will only feel endless emptiness and void. There's nothing. Nothing exists. The only thing you can do is realize that you are thinking. The only thing that exists there is your thoughts. What is this? Who am I? That is the purpose of the ninth dimension, to make you realize that the only one thinking in the universe is yourself, and that is God. To make you realize that the only creator in the universe is only one, and that is you.